Everyone, we will be starting with the session now. So, hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Dear authors and invited guests, welcome to the technical session 9B. Myself, Anshika Jain, and this session would be moderated by me. I, on the behalf of Global Knowledge Research Foundation and GR Scholastic LLP, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 10th International Congress on Information and Communication Technology, ICICT 2025, London, UK. The 10th edition of the conference is being organized in a hybrid mode. The physical event was held on 18th February 2025 in London, UK, and the virtual event is being held through Zoom from 19th to 21st February 2025. I hope you will enjoy the knowledgeable and interactive sessions throughout the day. In this session, we will have 6 presentations, and each presenter will be given 12 minutes for the presentation and 3 minutes for the questions and answers. On 10 minutes, I will raise a very gentle reminder. There is another request to all the participants that you stay connected with us till the closing remarks. If you have any query or any update, then you can write it to me in the chat box below. Just before we get started with the presentations and session, I would like to introduce you all to the chair for the session. I would like to introduce you to Professor Kihunigu Takamatsu. Sir is a professor at Tokyo Institute of Technology. His main work focuses on institutional research in the university and university reform in higher education through eduinformatics. He received his PhD medical science, specializing in molecular and cellular biology from the Graduate School of Medicine and the Faculty of Medicine of the University of Tokyo. Welcome to the session. Would you like to give a quick opening remarks now?
Enjoy. So please relax and presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And I would also like to take a moment to introduce you to our second session chair, Dr. Priya Pais. Ma'am is currently working as a professor and head of Department of Artificial Intelligence and Data Science at Indira College of Engineering and Management, Pune. Her research areas are big data analytics, cybersecurity, cloud computing, and data science. Her PhD in the topic sensitive data sharing on Headstone platform for privacy preserving. She has total experience of 18 years, including industry and academia. Ma'am has published 25 research papers in various scopus, WOS, HSI, UGC, case journals, and conferences. Welcome to the session, ma'am. Would you like to share a quick opening remark with us?
Yeah, well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Anshika, thank you for the warm introduction. I'm really looking forward and excited to hear all of you, and this forum generally helps us to bring back our knowledge to a global platform like today's conference. And I'm really looking forward for your presentations. So all the very best.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So now we will be starting with the papers. First up, we have Linian to present the paper title, A Comparative Analysis of the Support Vector Machine, Random Forest, Neural Profit, and Long-Term Memory Algorithms for Forecasting Rainfall in Zambia. Are you there?
Yes,
Are
I
you?
am.
Yeah, you may please begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I am.
Yeah, you may please begin with your presentation.
Okay, allow me to share my presentation.
Yeah, you can share your screen now.
Hello, are you able to see my presentation?
Yes, we can see your
Yeah,
presentation.
very well.
Yeah,
It's
you may
visible.
start. Yeah, you may begin.
Okay, yes, so I want to go ahead now. I've been introduced. My name is Lillian. Presenting on a paper, comparative analysis of support vector machine, random forest, neural profits, and long short-term memory algorithms for forecasting rainfall in Zambia. My co-authors are Jackson Piri and Mayumbo Nyurenda. That's our outline for the presentation. We'll do an introduction, a little bit of the literature review, through up to conclusion. And the introduction, so rainfall is a vital climatic variable that impacts people and people's livelihood globally, but especially in the tropics like Zambia. Rainfall forecasting impacts sectors such as agriculture, water resource, hydro energy production, disaster, and many others, which have an impact on the economic stability of individuals, but also as a nation. Rainfall forecasting remains a challenging operational task that is undertaken by national meteorological and hydrological services globally. It is challenging due to the dynamic and non-linear patterns in the atmosphere. So rainfall is becoming more variable. And because of that, this has increased its unpredictability. And as a result, the stakeholders, the users, have increased the demand for accurate rainfall forecasts. Traditionally, the forecaster, usually they assume a static relationship, but that static relationship is in a dynamic environment, and that limits the accuracy of the forecast. But now we have machine learning approaches which usually give better forecasts. So the purpose of this comparison is to compare the 4 algorithms, and out of these 4, choose or identify one that is suitable for Zambia. So the identification is based on their adaptability, their accuracy, and effectiveness. So the literature that has been reviewed is a paper by Daksh on machine learning algorithms and their tasks. And in this paper, they proved that machine learning algorithms, they do data processing and extract and make better decisions. Another paper on improving rainfall prediction accuracy. A number of algorithms were looked at, I think about 5, and long short-term algorithm excelled among all of them. The other paper by Animas for 2022, they are also comparing different algorithms under machine learning, and in it also, long short-term memory outperformed all the other algorithms that I've listed in the algorithm column. In this paper, Vendra for 2024 was comparing machine learning models. This one was for daily and weekly rainfall forecasts, and these are the models that were being compared. So under it, random forest performed well and outperformed all the other algorithms. And the next review in Hassan was comparing support vector machine with traditional linear regression, and support vector machine demonstrated superior accuracy. In the last literature that I reviewed, it was a comparison of Prophet, Facebook Prophet, and Neuro Prophet to forecast rainfall for time series. And Neuro Prophet outperformed the other one. So based on this literature that I looked at, the ones that performed better, which is support vector machine, random forest, Neuro Prophet, and long short-term memory, I selected the 4 because they performed better with the data that they will be given. So selecting these 4, now trying to give them the Zambian data and see which one will perform well, which one will outperform the other, which one will give us a better accuracy. And on this slide, I'm just describing the characteristics of each of the 4 that were selected. So the data that they were given is manual station data from the manual station that we have in Zambia. And the data is for rainfall, wind speed, relative humidity, maximum and minimum temperature. The data was first cleaned and then standardized. And we trained from 1981 to 2010, then did the validation, and was able to give a forecast for 3 seasons. Going to the results and discussion. So this is a result comparison chart where you are able to see each algorithm being compared against the actual rainfall. So the actual rainfall observed in this 1 month is colored in blue, and the neural profit is the one in dotted red, and I'm comparing them to the actual observed. Coming to the metrics of the comparison, so we are comparing the same 4, and you're comparing the trend performance. So you will see from this that neural profit had a stronger trend compared to the other 4 algorithm, whilst random forest was moderate, the other it was weak. In terms of overall fitting, neural profit was the best performer compared to the other 4. Support vector machine was quite inadequate, and long short term was overgeneralizing. So when you look at the actual errors, the root square mean error for neural profit was the smallest. Random forest came second, and the last was the long short term. When you look at the mean absolute performance error, you also note that the random forest was coming second, but a far second. Neural profit outperformed them all. So in a final conclusion, we would say, in the comparison, we would say neural profit had the best in trending following the graph, and then its weakness is that it uses the covariant, which just doesn't use the rainfall to pick, but it also uses the environment around it. But its accuracy was quite high, and it was the one that was able to highly predict the forecast better than the other 4. So in conclusion, so based on the results of these 4 algorithms, neural profit emerged as the best choice for the Zambian data set, and random forest performed better. But where we had wider margins, it was where it needs a little bit of tuning, and for the extreme cases from the graph that we saw. For the support vector machine and the long short term memory, they need significant adjustment. So in conclusion, the final word would be selecting the right kind of algorithm to ensure better accuracy is very important, because if you select an algorithm that will give a fairly not accurate for forecast, then it will have issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Ma'am and sir, do you have any questions?
Yeah, my question to you is, I believe the kind of results you have received and plotted on the graph. I just wanted to know, how did you do the data pre-processing? Because all the algorithm, the functionality and the accuracy always revolve around the accuracy of the data. So if you can enlighten on it.
So the data pre-processing, when the data was collected, first you check for you go through the data and check if we have any missing, and fill in the gaps using the reanalysis data. Then, because the data has different units, you standardize it to you normalize it, standardize, normalize, so that you are able to use the same standard kind of data.
Any specific, I got it. Any specific technique that you have used to standardize the data?
I was using my ICICT.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So,
Oh, I have a question. another question. Why you choose these four method? So shortly you said, but I miss the reason.
Sorry, I did not get the question in full, but maybe what I heard was why I chose those four. And the
Mhm.
response is based on the literature that was reviewed, it showed that these four outperformed the other algorithms where they were used.
Okay, and your results show the NP is the best performance. So they have some hypothesis why the method is the best performance. Do you have any idea? No? Oh. Okay,
Is
go
there?
ahead.
Yeah, there might be some issue. Okay, so we'll be moving on to the next presentation. Next, we have Naila to present the paper title "An Optimized XG Boost for the Pediatric Appendicitis Prediction." Are you there? Are you there, Naila?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you may please begin with the presentation.
Thank you. So, good afternoon here in Jordan. I'm Naila Almadi, an associate professor at Princess Sumaya University for Technology. Today, I'm going to present my paper titled An Optimized XG Boost for Pediatric Appendicitis Prediction. First, I will start with an introduction and a motivation for why I chose this topic, then the methodology, and then data, experiments, results, and conclude the paper. First, why I chose this topic, because the appendicitis is very hard or challenging to be diagnosed in children, because the symptoms overlap with other diseases, and because kids are unable to express their pain well. Also, it's 1 to 8% of children with abdominal pain have acute appendicitis, and 1 to 2% of this disease is 1 to 2% of surgical admissions in children. The misdiagnosis of this disease ranges from 28% to 57% in children. So we need machine learning to help us in prediction for this disease. We know that machine learning work very well to help doctors to predict, or to help doctors to focus on some diseases. So in this paper, I chose the XG Boost, and I chose to optimize XG Boost. XG Boost is one of the machine learning models that proved its efficiency in prediction for health field, but it has hyperparameters that should be tuned to work well with each problem it works on. In this paper, I chose genetic algorithm, which is one of the optimization models that is based on some evolutionary model I will describe or explain afterward. And the genetic algorithm is used to find the best parameters for XGBoost to work well with this problem. Before we start, let us explain XGBoost. XGBoost is a simple machine learning technique that is based on decision tree and gradient boosting. It also has many parameters, but we in this paper will focus on these 7 parameters, like number of estimators, which is number of trees in this ensemble model, learning rate, tree depth, a child weight, a subsampling rate, a cold sample by tree, and the gamma. The ranges for each parameter we are searching on, or we are trying to find the optimal value, is described in the third column here. Like for the number of estimators, we are searching the best number between 10 and 150. For genetic algorithm, it's an evolutionary model. It starts with initializing number of solutions called population, because we are optimizing 7 parameters. So each solution is a vector of 7 values from V1 to V7. تمام. And this population, for each solution in this population, we have fitness function, which in this case could be accuracy or F measure or recall for the prediction of having this disease. And this population then go through some steps like selecting parents, and applying crossover, which is change between two parents, and applying mutation, which is change one gene or one value of this solution. These steps continue afterward to which is called generation. And this generation continues to run until we reach the maximum the stopping criteria, which might be the maximum number of generation or having the optimal value of fitness value we are searching for. Our methodology start with getting the data, which is the pediatric appendicitis data set, apply some pre-processing like filling the missing values or removing features with a high number or too much of missing values, apply feature selection, normalization for the data. Then we split the data between training and testing. In this methodology, we split the data as 80% training and 20% testing. Then for the training data, we apply smooth because the data was not balanced. So we want the model to try on balanced data. After that, we apply XGBoost and genetic algorithm to optimize the number of the hyperparameter of XGBoost. And then when we find the best model, we go apply on testing data, and then we evaluate the performance of this model using some number of evaluation measures we will discuss afterward. For the data is given from the Children's Hospital in Germany, and it contains laboratory test, physical examination, clinical scores, and it has 3 class label. One class label has the diagnosis that this record is really appendicitis or this record is not appendicitis. The other class label is how to manage this record. Does it really need surgical admission or it's conservative? And the last class label is discuss the severity of this record. Is it complicated or uncomplicated? The distribution of these classes are shown in this figure. For each class label, we can see that the severity was really imbalanced data for having severe or complicated classes. For data preparation, any feature with more than 50% missing values were removed. Some features that has missing values but we can calculate was filled, like BMI, body mass index, was filled based on the height and weight of the kid. For example, if the height was missing or the weight was missing, I filled it with the average or the average height or weight per child based on age. For example, 7 years is maybe 180 centimeters or 20 centimeters. For feature selection, I used correlation with class label and applied based on this correlation. I selected the features. For data values were normalized using min-max normalization. Data, as I said before, was split into training and testing with 80%, 20%. And for training data, I applied the smooth approach so the model will learn good. As for the results, we have 3 classes. So, and I will present the result for each class. For the severity result, I applied some classical machine learning like decision tree, support vector machine, KNN, naive Bayes, and for some ensemble models like random forest, AdaBoost, and MLP. MLP is not ensemble, sorry for for my mistake. And last, I compared between XGBoost, the XGBoost original one and the optimized XGBoost. I used the 4 metrics for like precision, recall, F-score, and accuracy. We can see that XGBoost, our optimized XGBoost was the highest in all these measures for this class level. For the diagnosis result, also we have the same approach of applying classical models and for metrics evaluation and comparing the optimized XGBoost and original XGBoost together. Also, optimized XGBoost got better accuracy, almost 99, and even for F measure, it's 99%. For the management or how to manage this record, also the optimized XGBoost got best accuracy, precision, recall, and F measure with 99. We can see that for the severity, it was the lowest. It's sure because of the class distribution here, because also the testing will have the same class distribution. So it will be hard to be perfect or similar to diagnosis and management class level. As a conclusion, we can see that we can optimize XGBoost using genetic algorithm and having better performance, and also comparing with classical or well-known classifier, it also was or had better values. And thank you. I hope I am on time.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Ma'am and sir, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Nella, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. It was a very good presentation. I would like to hear it from you, what are the privacy and ethical considerations when using XGBoost and of course the optimized XGBoost with the sensitive children's health data?
Yeah, sure. The data was anonymous. We didn't know anything about the child, only age, weight, height, BMI, and blood and medical analysis. So we don't know exactly who this kid. I didn't do data collection. It's on online, open source. So I think they should ask parents of kids before getting this data and fill it.
Okay, so what were the methods of collection of data, or what were the data sampling methods that you have actually have done?
For me, as I said, I just take the data, fill the missing, remove if that was too much missing data, and I remove the feature, and I do feature selection. So I don't know if this answer your question or not.
Well, I just want to know a step before data preparation.
Yeah, the step, it's open source, the data, not me.
Okay, I got it.
Yes, the website has this data in 2 types, the structured data like table and X-ray data or ultrasound data. So I use the structured data for this paper.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm done. Thank you.
I have a question. This performance of prediction is very, very good. So the next step is clinical doctor use this method. So do you have any plan to apply to the clinical?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so that this can be really, for example, a small application that doctor can be used on maybe mobile phone to enter small data or quick data to help them. Also, as I read from related work, ultrasound data is challenging. So maybe this is the start to go for ultrasound data and apply optimized XGBoost on that.
Thank you. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. So we'll be moving on to the next presentation. Next, we have Bertram to present the paper titled Computer Vision as a Tool for Tracking Gastropod Chemical Trails. Are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah.
I just sent a request to share.
Yeah,
Let's try
you can.
again. There we go. Cool bananas. Can you see my screen?
Not right now.
There you go. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you so much for joining in the presentation.
But, we can see a picture of a snail.
Yes, can you see?
Yeah, a picture of a
So
snail.
that's my screen.
Great. Great then.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so this little critter over here, as Anshika has pointed out, that is a snail, also otherwise known as a gastropod. Now, watching a snail crawl by isn't probably the most interesting of things to do. And we've had comments on this study that probably if you can watch snails crawl, the next thing you can probably do is you can watch paint dry. So we realized that watching snails might not be the most interesting of things, but there was a previous study. This study was by Raw et al. Now, this study was conducted in 2013, and the idea behind this study was to actually monitor snail movement, specifically to determine how do snails move, in this case, snails or gastropods, ocean snails or sea snails, how do they move when there are chemical cues from invasive species? So to that extent, they had a bowl of water and a dripper, and then they dripped chemical cues into the water, and then they actually had to identify where the snail was. And then there was a very lucky research assistant that had to sit and monitor hundreds of hours of snails moving and then drawing the pathways of these snails as they moved. I don't know who was lucky enough to win that prize, but I'm very lucky. I'm very happy that it wasn't me. But regardless, we realized that in the age of machine learning, there has to be a better way to do this. So that is why this study was conducted. It's computer vision as a tool for tracking gastropod chemical trails. My name is Bertram Haskins. I have to be honest. I am not the main author. The main author is one of my master's students who has already moved on. He's actually moved to another country and is working in another country. So the main author would have been Andre Vivier. So the agenda that we'll work through is I'll briefly mention related work, data acquisition and pre-processing, model training, evaluation, conclusion, and future work. Now, related work, previously there has been a little bit of machine vision work done with regards to insects and other creepy crawlies. There have been studies who've focused on finding gastropods or snails on crops. You can imagine why. Being able to classify insects such as various types of flies and honeybees. And then there's also been studies in categorizing moths, interestingly enough, in the fruit industry. Now, in our case, we did not need to acquire the data firsthand. So I might have mentioned before that this was initially a study conducted by Raw et al. We were able to contact the authors of this study, and they provided us with a nice box of data. This box consisted of a whole boatload of mini discs and stacks of tracings of snail trails, and then spreadsheets of some of their data. Now, obviously, we couldn't use it as is. We had to scan the snail trails that were traced, and then we had to import the data from the mini discs. Now, the mini discs contained videos, and these videos all had camera settings. For the most part, the video feeds were taken at a fixed position above the waterline. Unfortunately, this wasn't consistent in all of the videos. They varied the position of the camera, but it was consistent within videos. And they used a frame speed of 24 frames per second and a resolution of 720 by 576, which you might notice is probably an old school webcam at that stage. Now, the data was divided up into separate runs. Specifically, these runs reflected various areas in which they took the gastropods from, where they wanted to see what the effective invasive species were. So the videos were taken at places called Catalina Bay, St. Lucia Mouth, Charters Creek, and Lister's Point. Now you'll see there's quite a few videos, and if you take into account the average length of these videos, you can imagine how much time that student assistant or research assistant spent making tracings. Now, unfortunately, mini discs don't always, they kind of have an expiration date, so we weren't able to pull off all the data, and we didn't receive all of the tracings. So you'll see from Charters Creek, say for instance, we weren't able to extract any pathways. Now, what we did with the videos, we had to do a little bit of frame processing. In other words, pull out individual frames. Every individual frame was processed by blurring it, performing a grayscale conversion. And then because the dilation algorithm required it, we then fed it into dilation, which allowed us to then perform an active background separation. In other words, we wanted the snails and the dropper to be in the foreground, and everything else, which might be noise on the floor of the bowl, we wanted that in the background. We then went and created an overlay on the side just for us to visualize so that we can see where background is and where the interesting things are. We then performed a color inversion, which was required for the contour detection algorithm we ran. And then lastly, we pulled out the individual objects from the contour detection to use this in the next step. Now, initially, the student tried to manually classify all of the various images that were pulled out. Now, the objects that were pulled out of the various frames were captured at 64 by 64 pixels. Now, you can imagine that is quite a lot of individual images. So to make it a little bit simpler, the student implemented a k-means algorithm based on the bit sequences in the individual 64 by 64 inputs. He started off having 5 individual groups. He dropped it eventually into 3 groups. And basically, by taking a look at the clusters that were created, it was able to group the various input images into either being gastropods or background noise or the pipe or the dropper down in the corner. So armed with these labeled images, the student then proceeded to split the data into training and testing data set using an 80-20 split. Because he was familiar with Python and Keras, he created an 8-layer convolutional neural network, i.e. a CNN, which used these 64 by 64 images as inputs. He implemented 8 filters to detect basic visual patterns, and then that was followed by max pooling layers using a window size of 2 by 2 and a stride of 2 pixels. You use convolutional layers of 16 and 32 filters. So you might notice that that is very sparse, which means it's not such a complicated classification task, and it's an experimental study for now. And then you also used a 64 neuron fully connected layer before having 3 output nodes for the 3 separate classes. Now, you ran an evaluation. You wanted to test how this actual algorithm was performing. So he tested according to accuracy and loss, cross entropy loss, with accuracy being the proportion of correct predictions and loss being the error between the predicted outputs and the true labels. Now, because the objects in the viewfinder is very predictable, so the levels of accuracy were close to 100% and the error was very low. So it's not an inherently difficult predictive or classification task. But the point of it wasn't about the level that it's actually able to reach. The idea was to see whether this could actually be useful in a real world setting to approximate what the real world person would have done that took up hours and hours and hours and hours of their time. So with that in mind, the model was then used in a prototype to evaluate it against the original tracings created by the research assistants. So the evaluation for this was conducted across 5 different types of videos that we have access to. There were 3 different general sizes of gastropods in these videos. And it's not to say that the gastropods are different sizes, it's more to do with the placement of the camera, but they were small, medium, and large sized gastropods. The lighting conditions were also differing across these videos, and then some videos had a bit more background noise, which might be also as an effect of the level of the camera and the lighting conditions. Now, as you can see in the left-hand image, it shows an example of one of the tracings that the original authors or assistant to the authors did. And you can see it shows you like a turn-by-turn, stepwise progression of how the snail moved around the little tank. So the original authors noted that sometimes it had to be done and redone for an individual video. So this was a very time-consuming process. Now, in the middle, you will see the students attempted this. As you can see, it's a much more fine-grained level of measurement, and which is actually adjustable because in the original attempt, they only had the ability during the video to set data points at specific points. But with an automated approach, you could actually vary the granularity of the path. In other words, see so much more with regards to the angles of the paths moving. You will now also note that there's a slight deviation to the path. If we superimpose it on the original path, it's slightly to the side. And that is because the original authors weren't specific about how they actually did the measurements. They weren't specific on where they put the points of rotation and data points of the individual gastropods. So in our study, we say, for instance, we measured at the center of the gastropod where they measured at the head of the gastropod, if you can call it that way. But it's quite an easy shift to make if you choose to, but the relative distances that it has with regards to the dropper were still adequate. And using this kind of prototype, it was able to show that it's really easy to approximate such a manual activity in modern day computer vision based systems. Now, with regards to all of this, because the goal of the study is to be able to be practically useful to someone in the real world, not necessarily just something that we as machine learners play around with or to get a master's student to finish their work. This needs to be practically applicable to someone not specifically in our domain. And that's sometimes why we do machine learning, because we can actually assist people in other domains. So some of the lessons learned that the student picked up on when capturing data, which would be interesting to know for the original authors, is include a measurement of the visible space. The original authors measured in centimeters because they were able to, but they didn't include measurements as part of the video feed. So this forced this version of the study to base everything based on pixel measurements instead of real world measurements. Maintain a consistent environment because you had to counter for so many different size variables with regards to the gastropods and the noise and the lighting that it puts in more effort than is actually necessary. Then also, because of the size of the data set, we don't inherently have pre-labeled data. So make sure that you have a good algorithm that can aid in the labeling process, whatever that might be. Something that is very interesting, establish a suitable frame rate. You can imagine in general terms, if you have a fast moving object, you want your frame rate or your frame captures to be as high as possible to get detail out. But for something that moves as slow as a snail, we figured that if we went usually frame by frame capture, we wound up with thousands of images, which weren't actually useful. So eventually, because the snails were so slow, we dropped it down to taking 1 frame every 2 seconds, basically, with how slow the snails move. Then assess the relevant computer vision libraries. Don't necessarily just pick one that you're used to using. Specifically, the students started off manually trying things, firstly trying things in C++ and C#, before eventually moving over to other libraries in Python and Keras. So before embarking on the study, make sure you have something that's of use to you. And then lastly, comprehend the specifics learned in your domain. So in other words, make sure, especially this is very apparent to someone who does machine learning, because we are trained as information technologists and computer scientists and statisticians. We tend to tread within the domains of other people. In this case, if we had a little bit of knowledge of how the initial study was conducted, how they did their measurements, it would have saved quite a lot of time, and it would have changed how we represent the data. So lastly, future work. We're still chatting with the student to continue his studies, but in future, obviously, change the way that the gastropod rotation takes place. Actually, don't hard code it, change it so that we can change the position. For more complex tasks, we could consider increasing the convolutional neural net's depth. And then lastly, because the eventual goal is to hand it off to other researchers, don't stick to the command line interface that we are so fond of using for experimental stuff. Provide a GUI to assist the original researchers or similar researchers. And that, in a nutshell, is that. So thank you for listening into the presentation.
Thank you so much
Any
for
questions?
your presentation. Thank you so much for your presentation, ma'am and sir. Do you have
Yeah.
any?
Bertram, right?
Yes, Bertram.
Yeah, Bertram. Yeah, it was indeed a fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
I mean, your slide number 1 really make me excited to see the application of computer vision and image segmentation and how it is going to be. So my
Yes.
excitement is still at the peak. And out of excitement and curiosity, I would like to ask you, how can a machine learning be used to differentiate between the trails left by different gastropod species based on maybe their chemical properties or the trail patterns, if you can comment on that?
Yeah, that would actually be an interesting thing. I mean, this wasn't what this study specifically was about, but you could possibly, the original study did capture the angles of rotation, and our study did it as well. But the problem is the way that they calculated the rotations weren't exactly the same as ours were. So what the rotations could be used for is it could be used to train a model that focuses on distances traveled and the number of rotations with regards to where the dropper is. And that could actually then start to possibly see a trend as to, do species move away faster or more away from the invasive species chemical cues, or doesn't it bother them at all? But yes, that's how you could use it.
And this needs a lot of patience as well, so I really appreciate that.
Extreme amounts of patience. I would have loved to see the face of that research assistant when his supervisor told him, "Listen, this is what you're going to do for the next 2 months."
All the best. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. So we'll be moving on to the next presentation. Next up, we have Maya to present the paper titled Feasibility of the Cyber Physical Nurse. Are you there? Maya, are you there? Yeah, you are there, but you are not audible to us. Can you please unmute yourself?
Yes, yes, I'm here. Hello,
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, you may please begin with the presentation. Yeah.
Let me just try to share.
Yeah, please.
Um, mm, uh, can you see?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hello. I'm really glad to be able to present to you our studies on making cyber-physical nurses feasible. So my talk will be more on the psychological side of this big problem. It builds on the first of all, we discussed the definition of a cyber-physical nurse, and then how it relates to the popular social robots design approaches, and how we define the user acceptance of such a complex device. Google defines. Google gives a very nice. Definition of a of the nurse, of the essence of a human nurse, of the profession, and in a sense that nursing integrates the art and science of caring and focuses on the protection, promotion, and optimization of health and human functioning, on prevention of illness and injury, and facilitation of healing, as well as alleviation of suffering through compassionate presence. And this important thing is an important aspect, alleviation of suffering through compassionate presence of the robot. It's not something that's so straightforward to design or to implement. This is why we investigate a variety of factors related to the individual perception of the nurse, so that she can fulfill the main functions she is entitled to. This definition summarizes the most important aspects: the unique professional role of the nurse to alleviate suffering by medical or physical treatment of the organism, and in parallel, to alleviate the psychological suffering of the patients in relation to their illness. The problem of the relation of the psychological suffering to physical suffering is very complex. It's political, it's philosophical, but in any case, in some approaches, it's just ignored because some researchers consider physical suffering the more important aspect. Nevertheless, the psychological suffering is extremely important and possibly the nurse is the only professional who is expected to be able to provide relief from psychological suffering. The focus of the present paper is the following. While the first aspect of the nursing role is being modeled on a functional level intensively within the framework of service robots in hospitals. It's about the jobs they perform. The second aspect is being addressed in the present paper as the factor contributing primarily to defining the feasibility of designing effectively a cyber-physical nurse by modeling its compassionate presence. Is it at all possible to model it? For the moment, we identified 6P of the cyber-physical nurse. Initially, these were 4, now there are 6. Possibly these can be perceived as endless number of dimensions, but for the moment, we deal with the following 6. The feasibility of the perfect cyber-physical nurse depends on complying with at least 6P. It should be pleasant, patient, polite, physically strong, precise, and predictable. And the appropriate methodologies which must be combined in order to design a feasible cyber-physical nurse it's a complex constellation of methodologies. This is why it's so difficult to design it. And for example, P1, 2, 3 relate to various studies interdisciplinary on the nature of social intelligence, the way empathy can be expressed, and how people perceive those factors. Then P4 and P5 are extremely important from the point of view of machine learning and AI algorithms, which have to be transparent by design. And P6, for example, it relates to explainable AI, because if our physical nurse is not predictable, then we have a huge problem. Factors defining acceptance based on the degree of anthropomorphism of cyber-physical nurse. In one very interesting study, the following factors are identified, which we find extremely useful. For example, anthropomorphism depends on human-like appearance, social intelligence, emotional capacity, and self-understanding. Here we deal with the first feature. The anthropomorphism of these robots is a feature which is influencing the interaction in an unpredictable manner and a very much implicit way by invoking emotionally charged reactions. In some cases, the emotional reaction to the robot depends on the individual internal criterion for affinity with the robot, with different degree of human likeness. And this is the very famous theory of Masahiro Mori, and we'll talk about it in a minute. We conducted a study on perception of agents with different degree of anthropomorphism. Masahiro Mori, he proposed that with the increase of the level of anthropomorphism of a robot, the affinity towards that robot would increase monotonically. I mean, although it's expected to increase monotonically, he defined the uncanny valley phenomenon, which violates this expectation. The experimental design was based on a methodology proposed by some researchers, which asked users to attribute personality traits to neutral human faces. We adopted this methodology, and we asked our participants to attribute personality traits to two robotic face and one human face presented. But however, these were presented not just as photos, but as brief 3-second videos in autonomous mode of silent behavior of the agents. Here we present the data and statistical analysis for the different genders of participants. The overall results show that the participants generally attribute positive features to the agents, although the facial expressions were neutral. What we mean here is that we have 3 neutral facial expressions with different level of anthropomorphism, and our participants generally perceive them as positive, sociable, emotionally stable. We'll see the features in a minute, which is encouraging to believe that people will accept robotic presence in their nearest environment. In respect to the negative features, these were scored closer to 0, meaning that users are not a priori negative to robotic agents with neutral facial expressions. This comes in a support to the first claim that when they see neutral robotic faces, they are not negative to them. And this is an important empirical finding, which contradicts with the general assumptions that humanoid robots are not perceived positively by humans, and that they pose some danger for alienation with the humans. Not at all. People are just indifferent to the negative features of indifferent faces, whereas they're quite positive with neutral features of humanoid agents. These are the main results, and with 2 types of results. From left to right, they go on emotional stability, sociability, trustworthiness.
Sorry to interrupt you, but you have 2 minutes to conclude your presentation.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the most important is that that as I said, as I just said, that with the increase of anthropomorphism, the function is not monotonically increasing. The first robot, Roberta, was liked a lot. The second robot, Alice, which is with more anthropomorphic features, was quite indifferent. And the third, the human face, was accepted very well. With the negative, as we said, the scores are around 0. So the most important results: the human face is attributed lack of any negative features, and the robot now is attributed lack of aggression. The robot Sotsibot is attributed the weirdness trait in contrast to the other agents. Therefore, the android type of robots can be generally assumed as being accepted individually, idiosyncratically. And therefore, we have to first of all check on the individual patient, their reaction towards the robot before introducing the robots in the clinic. And it is moreover important when we have to define how the patient would react towards the robot, if they are, especially if they are aggressive towards the human nurse. So what we propose is a strategy for distributing the roles of the between the human nurse and the cyber-physical nurse, and we plan to conduct some future studies to explore how patients react to robot utterances as well, because for the moment they were reacting only to silent robot and human behaviors. These are the conclusions, and I find it very inspiring that the graphical artificial intelligence algorithms can give us so many insights on the way on the way a robot should look, so that we can reinstate its social presence. Thank you.
Okay. Maya, what role do you think a cyber physical nurse system play in elder ones and some chronic disease management?
I'm not sure I got the question. What
Want me
role?
to repeat?
Yes, please. Yes.
So, what role do you think, cyber physical nurse systems, overall system, what you have explained us now, plays in a elderly care and some, chronic disease management?
Yes, exactly. Our approach is oriented towards those settings where we observe so many different attitudes, and they are as many as the individual patients, because they are very much dependent on the individual suffering. This is why, first of all, we propose to have always a team of a human and a cyber-physical nurse. Never leave the person alone with the robot. This is how we insist on this. The person should never be left alone with the robot, no matter if they are ill or not. And the second is to investigate, to implement, or to bring the theory to the clinic, to see how the individual patient with their individual history reacts, because they can be negative, they can be positive. And there is a theory of Roger Moore from Sheffield University who says there is a threshold. We have to measure the threshold of the individual person before introducing the robot. So if they like it, it's okay. It can be left longer with the robot, but if they dislike it, they
Without
have
it.
yes.
Okay,
And
okay.
the final was so the introduction, and the final is we did not see any difference between men and women. That's one of the outcomes. And the other thing is that in some cases, human prefer Android type of robots, and in another they prefer machine-like.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we'll be moving on to the next presentation then. Next up, we have Tangnon to present the paper titled From Gas Sensors to Efficient Electronic Nose Systems, a Bibliometric Analysis to Short Survey. Are you there?
Yes, Anshika, I'm there.
Yeah, you may please begin with the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I will share my screen.
Yeah, you can share your screen.
Okay. So, can you see my screen, please?
Yeah, we can see your screen. You may start.
Okay. So, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Tayon Zanou, and I'm a PhD student in electrical engineering. And this work have been done by me and Awanginu Arnaud, Kiki Probus, and Ametepe François Xavier. So it is titled From Gas Sensors to Efficient Electronic Node Systems, Bibliometric Analysis to Short Survey. So the plan I will follow is this. I will begin with the introduction, and I will present the methodology of our study. And after that, I will present the results composed by the bibliometric analysis and the short survey, and I will end by a conclusion. So we all know that smell is an essential sense for human, and it enables us to sense others around us. For many industrial processes, human nose have been used, but shows important limitation. So in many applications and for relevant, in order to meet relevant advances in detection and identification of volatile organic compounds, there are many emergent technologies such as gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, and electronic nose systems. So electronic nose systems are an emerging technology who offers several advantages, includes the detection of a wide range of uses and odors. So we have significant progress that have been made in the field of gas sensors and electronic nodes for the detection of specific volatile organic compounds and odors, but there are still many limitations such as weak sensor performances, sensor drifts, and a high cost of acquiring systems. So in order to make significant contribution, it is important to have a good overview of the research already carried out in this field. And this is the main reason of our bibliometric analysis. So to make a resume of the goal of the bibliometric analysis, he allow us to analyze and map scientific research in order to influence the choice of a research topic and to influence the founding of scientific research. So our bibliometric study is in order to resense the work relative to odor and VOC detection sensors, the use in electronic nose systems, and the limitation, and how to improve the performances. So what are the things we have identified? We identify first the annual scientific outputs, the most productive authors, countries, and journals in these fields. And after a bibliometric study, we have made a short survey. So the methodology we have follow is this. We begin with a search of a research string. We select after that the database we will use for our study. We define the criteria and we selection the tools we want to use. So we define 3 research string. We can see the 3 research string in my string. So we define this research string in order to go from a wide range of research on sensor and VOCs to much focused studies on the performances of sensor in electronic noise and optimization of the devices. So the database we have choose is the Scopus database. We define the 2 criteria which are our searches extends from 2014 to 2040 for 2024, and we analyze publication in English. And we choose 4 tools to make a bibliometric study, such as Bibliometrics, BiblioShiny, Excel, and VOS Viewer. So the first result we are presenting is the annual scientific production. So the figure 3 show the annual scientific production, and we can look in this figure. We can see sustained and significant please grow over the years, reflecting growing interest and investment in issues relating to sensor and VOCs. And this trend suggests that innovations are maturing with a focus on improving sensor performance and reduce cost. And this allows us also to confirm the growing interest in researches around the study topics and to predict more work and publications on the subject, and more particularly on the performance and optimization of sensor and INOs. So after the annual scientific output, we also study the most relevant sources. So this study reveals that the journals such as Sensor and Actuators, B Chemical, Sensors Switzerland, and E3E Sensor Journal are in the top of our 3 research string. And we also note that E3 journals are particularly interested by performance and optimization of sensors and electronic noises. So after this study, we also do the study of the most relevant authors. So after this study, we note that continents such as Asia, Europa, and America are the most involved in subjects related to sensors, VOC detection, in-nose systems, and performances. So we also do the study of the most relevant country. And we note that China, United States, Italy, and India are the most relevant countries related to the three research things we have studied. So we can say that China consistently stands out as a leader, and Italy has a strong and growing presence, particularly in the most specialized research on electronic noise. So we also note a low level of activity of African countries in these results, poorly represented. So after the bibliometric study, we have also made a short survey in order to explore the technologies that have been developed to improve the performances of the sensors and electronic nodes. So the table one show the methods that have been used in order to improve the selectivity of sensors and electronic nodes. So uh, we can say that methods such as modifications of materials in sensor design, sensor signal modulation, data processing algorithms, and artificial intelligence, bio-inspired electronic nodes are some methods that have been widely used to uh, to improve selectivity in sensor and electronic node systems. So after this short survey about improving selectivity, we also made a short survey uh, concerning the methods for addressing sensor drift issues in electronic nodes. So we also note that optimizations of material and sensor design, machine learning algorithms, and sensor drift compensation and calibration and metrology approaches are some of techniques that are being used in order to address sensor drift issues. So this short survey allow us to recognize that after
Interrupt
the
you.
most
Sorry to interrupt you, but you have 2 minutes to conclude your presentation.
okay, so it remains 2 minutes. Okay, so this short survey reveals that more works have been done, but there are also many challenges to overcome. And some studies acknowledge that their methods need further validation in a real world condition. And metal oxide sensor are among the most studied in the field of electronic noise because of the advantages they offer, such as the low cost and ease of use. So there's allow us to see the importance to deepen research into the sensor by exploring promising techniques that have demonstrated their effectiveness. So in conclusion, we provide a global overview of the research trends in the various research projects on gas sensor, electronic nodes, and aspects related to the performance and optimization that allow us to have some results. And after that, we make a brief review of literature who allow us to see that a lot of works have been done, but also a lot of challenges to overcome. So a perspective we can find is to explore the possibility of designing a selective electronic nodes with a significant reduction in drift and above all at lower cost using metal oxide sensor. So I'm at the end of my presentation. Uh, thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Ma'am and sir, do you have any question?
Yeah, Taganon, right?
Thank you.
I just would like to know what was the motivation behind this particular topic, and if you can precisely just tell me what are the applications, it would be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Priya. Can you please explain more your question? I think I don't
Yeah,
understand it.
what was the motivation behind the study that you did? What was the intention, basically? So how did you? I mean, how have you framed your topic this way so that it can help the society? That if you can enlighten on this.
Okay, so thank you. The the work we have done is in order to map research in the field of gas sensor. So gas sensor have been used in order to detect volatile organic compounds. So this can be used in agriculture, for example, in many industrial process, such as, for example, to sense wind quality. So it is important to have some electronic node system uh, which are um, performant in order to make a relative analysis. So the study we have done is in order to choose some research topic we can use for our research. So we analyze the scientific trends in gas sensor technology, electronic nodes technology, in order to influence the choice of a research topic. So this allow us to find that there are a specific type of gas sensor which are used in order to make electronic noise. And we also note the challenges that remains. This can help us to choose a research topic.
Okay. Fine. That's clear to me now. Thank
Okay,
you and best wishes.
Sir,
thank
do
you,
you have
Priya.
any questions?
Okay,
Okay. So I guess no questions. So we'll be moving on to the next presentation.
okay,
Next,
thank
we
you.
have we have Adiba to present the paper titled "The Triangulation Study on Islamic Marketing of Full-Fledged Islamic Banks." Are you there?
Let
I
me
can.
share this like this.
We cannot hear you properly.
Can you see the slide?
No, actually, we cannot hear you properly. Your voice is really low.
Yeah, I have somewhat a problem with my connection. I'm hoping that people will actually hear me.
Okay, so you can begin your presentation.
Okay, yes. Can you see my slide?
No, not yet. Can you please share your screen again?
Well, I can see that.
Okay,
That's visible. Please go ahead. Adiba, please go ahead.
Okay, please go ahead
I will
then.
just move, okay? Okay, thank you. Okay, it's a lovely night here. Okay, it is a time in Malaysia, obviously. I'm hoping that you are having a lovely afternoon as well. So, my topic is that triangulation study on Islamic marketing of full-fledged Islamic bank in Malaysia. So let me actually explain what is it. Okay, what my topic is it about. So, hi and family of
A request,
triangulation.
Dr. Adiba, a request.
Yes.
Please be little louder. You are really low on your
Okay.
voice. Please be little louder.
Okay. So the triangulation here is the process of using various data. Okay, I'm sorry, in which I have a little bit of problem with my connection. Okay. I try my best to actually try to be loud as much as I can. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
So triangulation is the process of using various data method within one study to confirm that the result are firmly supported by the prediction made. Okay, and this is Islamic marketing. And nowadays in Islamic bank, we have somewhat the trend in which we call it term as ethical-based banking. So this Islamic marketing is actually represent that. And the full-fledged Islamic bank is actually the independent and domestically owned of Islamic bank, in which they touch the crown of Islamic principle fully adopted in this banking system. Okay, so let's move towards the introduction of it. Okay, so the objective is that to explore the triangulation research, we are not just focusing on the content of it, we are actually highlighting on the approach that we're using in the study. Okay, so explore the triangulation research approach in the background of Islamic marketing at fully fledged Islamic Bank in Malaysia. And it is a transition encompasses aspect the knowledge within the Islamic Bank, the ethics of Islamic advertising, and the enhancement of learning and training within the Islamic Bank itself. Okay, the establishment of comprehensive binding measure based on the principle of Islamic marketing well-being. So this is the mediator. Okay, so the present research clarify the basis link between the quantitative data and also the qualitative insight by the expert of it. Okay. So the qualitative research is actually the major approach for this study and being supported by the qualitative. Okay, quantitative is the major approach and supported by the qualitative. Okay, so qualitative research has been criticized for being biased against quantitative in certain methodological dispute. Okay, in Islamic marketing in particular, the triangulation study has shown interest as a mean of verifying the results. So this tactic is justified by the idea that a method shortcoming can be leveraged to strengthen another. Recently, both authorities and the banking sector have become increasingly involved in the service process. So it's actually quite hard to actually measure the right way to define those ethical-based banking. Okay, so that's why we come out with the approach of the triangulation. So let's look into the specifically on the method itself. So this is how we're going to conduct, okay, our data. So the main approach of the quantitative, doing the survey of towards the employees at Islamic Bank, okay, and then we support by the unique sampling techniques towards the expert in it, in the marketing expert, academician, regulation, and also the administration of it. Okay. Okay, so the literature review, I just put somewhat the framework of it. Okay, so let me a little bit simplify on each of the variable involved. Okay, so we have somewhat the Islamic bank knowledge. So it consists the element of religiosity, the fundamental principle of it, and also the recognitions. Okay, what being mean by this Islamic bank knowledge? Okay, it is a knowledge described as information that shape an individual's action. How this kind of Islamic bank knowledge is actually define the image, okay, or the informations that shapes this Islamic bank employees action. Okay, so the other variable is which Islamic advertising ethics or the ethics itself. Okay, that being upheld by mode of communication and also the product details of those Islamic bank product. The Islamic bank learning and training augmentation can be an existing knowledge provided by the bank or an additional knowledge or the organizational support by those Islamic bank. Okay, the Islamic marketing well-being here is same as financial well-being. Okay, but then it uphold the Islamic principle of it. Okay, we have the determination by the well balance of the what we call it the Islamic principle and also how the employee should behave. Okay, ijtihad. Okay, ijtihad is actually defined as the best effort by the best people. Okay, or we call it as a Sharia advisory or Sharia committee themselves, establishing the value and the standard of Islamic organization. So how we uphold the policy apa in actually wrapping okay this Islamic marketing well-being and to define the dependent variable of Islamic marketing of full-fledged Islamic bank in Malaysia. Okay, let's move towards okay, methodology. So we obviously uphold the quantitative and also the qualitative data. So for the quantitative aspect, the survey will distribute to full-fledged Islamic Bank in Malaysia, in which we have two Islamic Bank, full-fledged Islamic Bank, in which Bank Islam and also Bank Muamalat. Okay, and we choose this because of its independent and uphold, as we want to determine the measure of Islamic marketing. So we want to make sure that the organization itself is actually uphold those value of Islamic marketing. Okay, we do not want to be biased to just approach the subsidiaries might as well full-fledged Islamic bank. Okay, because it is somewhat quite biased in terms of the data collection. Okay, so and also we use a qualitative approach, okay, by using the unique sampling technique because of due to its expertise in specific area. Okay, complement the primary quantitative methods. So for this study, it enabled the collection of expert opinions and experiences related to Islamic bank. So all expert that we conduct, okay, this interview in which each of them uphold the a doctoral, okay, degree. Sorry. Okay, so the research finding, okay, just move to its research finding. Okay, we have conduct the reliability, okay, in which all composite reliability by the Cronbach alpha value, suppressing the suppose the threshold value of 0.7. So this suggests that the measurement employed in this study exhibits strong reliability. I think this is also due to our larger sample, okay, with regard to the employees, number of employees, and the convergent validity AVE evaluations, okay, typically between 0.5 and 0.9, okay, a threshold value of 1.0 is also considered acceptable. This is because in the case of single item measures, an AVE value of 1 indicates that the latent variable is represented by only one observed indicator, like what being observed by the dependent variable, okay, without element of it. Okay, so we have hypothesis testing, in which all relationship between the construct show that all the hypotheses were supported. Okay, the T statistic exceed the 1.96 and the p-value is below 0.05. Okay, and the magnetic effect evaluation, we test on the direct relation, the direct effect, the indirect effect, and all the study concluded that the construct of Islamic marketing will partially mediate the relationship between various factors and the Islamic marketing. Okay, the result demonstrate partial mediation through this construct, offering empirical evidence for the mediating role of Islamic marketing well-being in the context of Islamic marketing within Islamic banks. And it is also in line by the result of qualitative of word list and the key word in context KWIC, okay, in which about 7 key themes were identified for each interview question using the word list and KWIC technique. For example, in the category of the religious division, the element under the Islamic bank knowledge, okay, emerged as a prominent theme due to its high frequency and relevance to the context of religiosity itself, because the keywords such as philosophy, distribution, foundation, information, surface, and knowledgeable represent by those Islamic bank knowledge. Okay, closely aligned with the theme and provided meaningful insight into the underlying concept. Okay, so I just read about the synthesis finding of it. Okay, so
Sorry to interrupt you, ma'am, but you have 2 minutes to conclude your presentation.
okay, I'll just proceed to conclusion. Okay, through the findings that we have found, highlight a crucial issue that requires immediate attention to improve the Islamic marketing effort of Islamic banks through methodological triangulation, because we are not just look from the view of Islamic bank employees, but also the view from the expert, okay, on it, ensuring their alignment with the interests of stakeholders in both the evolving financial sector and the expanding Islamic hub society. So this approach is actually gain recognition in the field of Islamic marketing as a robust way to validate research finding. And it is actually the one of the way to examine and measure the ethical based banking itself. Okay, so that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Ma'am,
Yeah,
you go.
yeah, Abhita, uh, thank you for nicely putting the stuff, how your study of a triangulation is going to, give a conclusion and, improve upon the performances of the Islamic banks. So I want to ask you a question in line with the conclusion, of course. How would you be helping, or how your this work will help the Islamic countries to improve upon the banking sector? What do you think? How effectively they can use your study so that they'll be in a benefit? I mean, did you do a testing phase for whatever you are saying now? Because, I mean, better you comment on this.
Yes, this is actually the growing trend in which we actually want to find the exact measure of what is actually ethical based measurement for the Islamic banks. So somehow, each of the researcher, most of the researcher conduct a survey based on the quantitative part, okay, in which it is quite biased of analysis. It is added value of it, but it is somewhat like how we're going to link back with the policy that being held by the Islamic Bank, and how we actually want to measure it is actually the right way of marketing those Islamic Bank. Okay, so somehow there is obviously a need of research and to be done, but then this is actually the approach in which we're trying to find the favorable method in which that could provide us insightful data of what we are going to do with this marketing throughout uh, Islamic Bank itself.
So it is up to the bank whether to carry forward with your research and conclusion for their actual implementation.
I approach somewhat. It is not actually. It is more towards like favor towards Islamic policy under the capital market. Okay, so I'm doing research with them. Okay,
Okay,
try to align which is the best policy that is actually which is the best method
got
actually.
it.
Yes,
Okay, thank you, Abhita.
thank you.
Sir, do you have any questions? So I guess no questions. So we'll be moving to the end of this session. I sincerely thank our authors for their excellent presentations and contribution in this session, and all our participants for being a part of this international conference. I hope this session was informative enough for all of you. We, on the behalf of the whole team, thank you for your support during this 10th version and all the previous 9 versions of the conference. We will be happy to have you in the 11th version in 2026 as well. All the presenters would be getting their certificates through email within 2 working days. Further, all the papers have already been forwarded to the sprinter. The publication will be live within 6 months. So kindly cooperate with the team of ICICT 2025. Before ending this session, I would like to take a moment to thank our session chairs, Professor Cunico, for chairing this session. Thank you so much, sir. Would you like to share a quick closing remark with us? So, would you like to share? Yeah.
Yes, very much. The topic is very various, so the very interesting. So in the future, your work will good development in your field. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for chairing this session. I would also like to take a moment to thank Dr. Priya for chairing this session. Ma'am, this is a token of appreciation to the chair on the behalf of whole team of ICICT 2025 and Global Knowledge Research Foundation and partners. Thank you for chairing this session. Would you like to share a quick closing remark with us?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, giving me an opportunity to chair the session. It was an opportunity for me to listen to, worldwide ideas, wherein it was so much insightful and, thought provoking, basically, to understand what all is happening in the field of AI and, genetic algorithms, and likewise all over the world. So I'm really happy to be a part of the conference, and my best wishes to and congratulations to all the authors.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would request everyone to kindly turn on their cameras for a quick snapshot. Thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.